Well, what have we here? It's Saturday, September 9th, noon Eastern time. I'm Bob Harris. That's right, I said it like I meant it. This is the Football Diehards YouTube channel, and it's time for our weekly Ask Me Anything live stream. Once again, we're going with the old school solo format so we can get to as many questions as you might have and give them a little room to breathe as we sort through them. There's a lot going on. It's week one, people. But before we get to that, FootballDiehards.com is the website. A lot going on there. The flash update, premium services up and running. I'm posting about 30, 40 news updates today. Got a little more analysis up there today. Tons of great articles from people you've come to know and love. John Blob, the Gridiron Scholar, Gary Davenport, myself, Casey Joyner, Justin Lanero, Jamie Calandro, Eric Roma, Brad Cruz, Drew Phelps. The whole crew's up there. And Reginald James, the commissioner, will be there. The yard guys are here. We got that going for us as well. So a lot going on, and so thanks a lot for coming. Appreciate you showing up here every week. Saturdays at this time, noon Eastern time, will be the time. And also for Wednesdays, 7 p.m. for our On the Hot Seat live streams. Hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, ding, 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 ding. If you haven't already, I know if you previously finished those tasks, hit the like thing. The like, hit that. Hit it. Okay. I'm going to hit the dislike just so if everyone wants to jump in. Look at everyone's in the chat. Hey, Remy. Hey, Harlem. I got to see that question. That's going to be a good one. Cats are excited for this week. Pat B, thanks for asking. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Troy. Good morning, Andrea. Good morning, Charles, Steve, Jesse, Andrea. Oh, we've got some repeat peoples here. I'm just rolling through everything. There's a lot going on. Let's kind of set the table here. We all know what the big storylines are. But in case someone's just waking up and wondering what the hell's going on, I'll tell you what the hell's going on. Tight end mania is going on. We got tight end issues this week. We got some other issues. If you somehow missed it, Cooper Kupp officially listed as questionable, even though he's already been ruled out. I don't know what the Rams are doing. Check that injury report. Always interesting. But Cooper Kupp's not playing. Probably going on IR today. Watch for that. Probably going to miss the first 4 games of the season. Sean McVay called it definitely possible. I think definitely possible. I just take the possible part out and you go with it definitely here, but we'll find out later today, most likely on that. Darren Waller suddenly uncertain with a hamstring issue. I do have some decent news report on that. Jordan Ronan from ESPN is reporting that it wasn't a single pull. It was not like he came up short in practice. It was just some general tightness. So hopefully they're just being cautious, but we'll see that. It's a Sunday night kickoff, people. So I see one of the first questions in there. I'll just go ahead and answer it right off the get-go because I'm sure I'll not need to answer it again. Stuck on the Waller injury issue, Harlan Mundo says, is it safe to just start or bench him this week? I mean, you know, I love the upside, but if he's not playing at full speed, we already saw what happens to an offense in general when the top tight end is not there. We saw it with Travis Kelce. I'm not pretending Darren Waller is Travis Kelce, but he's going to have a huge role in this offense. So it could be an issue. Could be good news for Saquon Barkley. Could be good news for the receivers. Expect more 3-receiver sets. So Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton seem like all likely options. Daniel Bellinger. So if you're in a pinch at tight end, here's the list of guys. Jake Ferguson on Dallas. Gotten some buzz recently. Probably available in your league. Daniel Bellinger, the direct backup. Lawrence Cager is going to be there too. He might do something, so that's a concern. Monday night, you've got probably in most leagues Tyler Conklin available. CJ Uzama almost certainly available. Dawson Knox might even be available. So you probably have some available options if you really want to stick this out and wait to the bitter end. The Sunday night kickoff, always problematic. If you have better options earlier in the day, it's probably better to play it safe, right? You just don't know. Until we know more. These uncertain situations, we want that thing we want, but sometimes it's just wisest to let it go and make the easy decision. So that's kind of where we're at, Harlem, and everyone out there. I'm sure there are a lot of other questions about that. We'll get to all the questions today, or as many as I can. Sometimes it gets a little bit much during the first weeks. Christian Watson out for the Green Bay Packers, so maybe Luke Musgrave is someone you want to pick up and get ahead of the curve there. Christian Watson for the Green Bay Packers. And Romeo Doubs also listed as questionable, so he seems likely to play. Doubs. The concern with Watson is Matt LaFleur. He used the words week to week to describe this injury. That's not the words I want to hear, right? That's not exactly the ideal situation. So Watson's worth watching with a hamstring injury going along. Joe Burrow is going to play. He's going to play with a lot of money in his pocket. T. Higgins will watch angrily from his split end position without as much money. Maybe not angrily, but he's not getting paid. Another tight end issue. right? We've got some of those. Mark Andrews listed as questionable. He really did not sound very upbeat and positive talking to reporters on Friday, I guess it was, or Thursday. He talked to reporters on Thursday, continued to practice on a limited basis, but I believe the words were, he would not guarantee who would play, but he said, God willing, he'd be out there. So say your prayers, kids. Quarterback situation is Arizona is up in the air. Josh Dobbs seems likely to start. Will he have Marquise Brown? We don't know. Will he have Zach Ertz? We don't know. They're both listed as questionable. Terry McLaurin is just fine. The Seahawks he's off the injury report. I don't know if he's just fine. Great matchup. I like a lot of the pieces in this one. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit if the questions arise. Love the Washington Commanders going up against the Arizona Cardinals defense. The Seahawks seem to be healthy. There was a little concern with Kenneth Walker, showed up on the injury report Thursday, limited. He was off on Friday. Jerry Jeudy listed as questionable, has a chance to play. I'm sure we're going to get questions about Breece Hall. I'm leery of him. I'm sure we're going to get questions about Javonte Williams. I'm a little bit leery of him, but less so than I am of Breece Hall. So let's get to it. What do you say? I'm sure you have questions in here. I want to just check it out and see where we're at. I see John Bonneville. Hello, Paul Stella. So let's get into the questions here and see. And hello, Angie. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you. Dame, thanks for coming in. Nice to see you. So let's see. Where do the questions start? I already answered if the Cats are excited for week 1. And the question is, duh. Fad, thanks for asking about the Cats. I appreciate that. All right. Hope all is well, says Steve Linder. With Waller perhaps out, which player in case his status updated before the Sunday night? Oh, so I guess I did. I answered this one before you even asked it, or probably you asked it and I just didn't see it. All of those guys are probably reasonable options, right? Musgrave, it's a late afternoon kickoff, right? Hunter Henry, late afternoon kickoff. Conklin, Monday night kickoff. Bellinger, Sunday kickoff. I think all those are options. We'll probably get a good feel for Darren Waller. If you guys are familiar with the Flash Update website, I do a lot of reporting overnight as the insiders come out with their little tidbits. So check the FootballDiehards.com website early in the morning. I start at about 5 a.m. Central Time and take it right up through each level of kickoffs, give you the inactives. Also be on Sirius if you're listening in there doing the pregame show. We have the inactives in real time as we have them on the website as well. So we've got a ton of information out there available. But that's going to be the thing. We should probably hear some insights. As I mentioned, in case you just tuned in, I found Jordan Ronan's report from last night kind of encouraging. It wasn't a single pull for Waller. Not a pull, just some general tightness. I mean, I don't know. Is that better or worse? I mean, it's better that it's not like a horrible pull. I don't know that it's great that there's some tightness and that he was limited. Maybe they're just being cautious, right? Maybe there's not even a problem at all. Right, but we've got to be a little cautious in our approach for our league. That's all important. So hopefully they'll have someone who can catch the football. The Chiefs learned that lesson Thursday night. If your star tight end is not there, have guys standing by who can catch. Who knew? So there you have it, Steve. Jesse wants to know, need 2, Mixon, Madison, or Walker 2. Mixon for sure. And then it comes down to Madison and Walker, and I think both are reasonable plays. I'm just going to double check the rankings and see exactly. I mean, they're very close. I have Walker ranked 2 or 3 ahead of Madison. I think the hair you split there is so. There's 2 possibilities here, right? For Madison, as far as I'm concerned, this is a pass-heavy offense. They threw the ball 65% of the time last year. That's a little bit of a limiting factor, right, for Madison. Kenneth Walker, I know the Rams, not a great defense, great matchup. Buccaneers, though, is it possible Minnesota gets out ahead and starts running the football a little more heavily? Yes, entirely possible. So I'm going to rank them Mixon, Walker, Madison, but I do see some upside for Madison. If you're concerned about Zach Charbonnet, maybe you should be concerned about Ty Chandler, but probably not. Maybe you should be concerned about my yard guys. Come right to the door. So bear with them. They'll be gone momentarily. So that's the order I take them. I go Mixon, Walker, Madison. John Bonneville has seen the same reports that I saw, so that's pretty reasonable. I mean, reasonable to have a fallback option, especially when you don't know it is a late kickoff, right? Kevin Payne, buy window is now open. Hit those Gibbs panic owners. I would agree with that. So here's a couple thoughts on this, right? Like, for all the people out there that are cursory, I'm looking at you, Jamie Calandro. If you watched the DFS live stream last night, Calandro continued his attacks on my guy Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not gonna throw out the fact that his guy is Jerick McKinnon, that he thinks is gonna outplay. How'd that work out, Jamie? Just kidding, man. All good. Look, there's a range of possible outcomes for all these players, and if you're concerned, just let me bring up a number here. I've talked about this before with Jahmyr Gibbs, and you all know I cannot help myself with. So I'm just going to bring up some numbers here that interest me, if I can find them. So look, I thought he looked fine, right? I mean, I would like to see him get more volume. I thought David Montgomery showed both his strengths and weaknesses in that game, right? I mean, we saw kind of the full range of possibility. It looks like a little bit of a plotter at times to me, and that's fine. So let's look at DeAndre Swift. Positional rankings overall. He's been running back 20, 23, and 23 over the last 3 years. If you don't think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be on the field more than DeAndre Swift, I mean, I just disagree with that. So we'll see. I mean, look, he's a rookie, first game in. Also, in the same rage, I mean, the panicky concerns about Sky Moore. Look, the usage was not great. I think there's legitimate reasons for concern there. Dwayne McFarland, if you go to his Twitter feed or X feed, you'll see, some of the usage numbers and how that compares and how it stands up against what you would hope for. It wasn't great. But what have we said about the Kansas City Chiefs all along? The Kansas City Chiefs told us what the plan was when they said to Tyreek Hill, go away. The plan at wide receiver is they think their quarterback can get it done with a bunch of guys, right? They don't need a superstar wide receiver as long as they had their superstar tight end. Well, look what happens when the superstar tight end goes away and the pressure is put on the wide receivers. They did not come through. But any given week, it could be a different guy there. That's the plan, people. That's what they want it to be. They want Patrick Mahomes to determine the wide receiver one on every single play by finding the open man. So there you have it. So no panic for me on Jahmyr Gibbs. I am not selling him. If somebody is, jump in. Kevin Payne is correct. Hello, Paul Stella. Steve has a PPR flex question. Need two of these. Rashad White, Cortland Sutton, Brian Robinson. I think Brian Robinson is super safe volume. I'm going to go with the two running backs. I know there's some concerns about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you read my DFS 3 and out column, I think this is an opportunity to gain some ground. You've won a super cheap play at quarterback. Vikings defense is horrible, right? They're probably going to be having to pass like crazy. So I think the receiving assets there, and I would include Rashad White in that, are fine. I do like Cortland Sutton. We'll see if Jerry Jeudy plays. I like Sutton whether Jeudy plays or not. But I think I like both running backs better. Brian Robinson should get a ton of volume. This is a really great matchup for the Commanders against Arizona. They don't play good defense. I don't know if they want to play good defense. They don't have a great secondary. So if the Commanders get an early lead or get out in front at least, I'm expecting a ton of Brian Robinson in a great matchup. So two running backs for me there, Steve. Jesse, you need one. London, Keenan Allen, or Walker 3. Probably playing Walker 3 there. Wouldn't talk you out of Keenan Allen. I like all three of those guys. Tough call. But I'm going to go ahead and play the guy that I think is going to get 60 to 70% of the carries for Seattle in a great matchup. Angie, PPR flex, Antonio Gibson or Mike Williams? That's a little closer. So I guess the one of the things you want to say about Gibson, I'm just checking it's very, I said it was close. We go to our flex rankings at FootballDiehards.com. And the overall, we have a combined ranking where everyone lines up in the same spot. Antonio Gibson, 59. Mike Williams, 55. Am I concerned about Xavier Williams? Not a ton. I could probably still play Mike Williams. My concern, and I think Gibson's a fine play. My concern there is, like, if the game does get out of hand, will it be more running than passing as we get into the second half there? And is that more of a Brian Robinson game than an Antonio Gibson game? If you see it the other way around, they're close enough, Angie, that you could easily go with Gibson. I'm going to give Mike Williams a shot myself. Pat B. By the way, Pat, the cat has just joined us. Hello, Wally. The yard guys leave and the cat arrives. So which one sits, says Pat V. D. Johnson versus San Francisco, Mike Williams versus Miami, or London versus Carolina? Pat, honestly, that's a you decision. I mean, they're all that close. I mean, if you're playing the matchups, I mean, it's easy to say I want to dial back on Pittsburgh players. Let me just double check then the actual numbers, the projections, sir. I don't know if you guys listened to the Alice in Chains draft that I hosted this week on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. It was a ton of fun. And also during the show, Jeff Garland's literally drafted Deontay Johnson in the 6th round and dropped him while we were drafting. I'm probably going to go London, Williams, and Deontay Johnson in this case. The matchup is a concern. I think everyone, that's the issue, right? Also, I have a little bit of an issue, and maybe you can correct me if you feel I'm wrong. I hate West Coast teams traveling to play in early kickoffs. Traveling all the way to the East Coast. That's just me. Andrea needs a flex. Van Jefferson versus Seattle. Quentin Johnson versus Miami. A.J. Dillon versus Chicago. Tank Bigsby versus... So I'm really tempted to say Van Jefferson here, Andrea. Honestly, I mean, Seattle, not a stellar defense, but, there's only a couple viable options, it seems like, the passing attack. Maybe more. A.J. Dillon seems like a reasonable play, and Tank Bigsby do as well. Let me just check. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I think that's the direction I'm going, Van Jefferson. Let me just double check on Dillon. Okay, I'm going to go Dillon. So I had this discussion on the radio last night. By the way, you should listen to the Football Diehards on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. It's a great show. We did a ton of questions last night. I had some on Van Jefferson. I was maybe a little keener on him last night than I am today, just talking through it a few times. I'll go ahead and go Dillon here. Streaming defense, Saints or Jags this week, and PPR Najee or Christian Kirk in the flex. I'm going Najee in the flex there, Steve, pretty easily. Look, the volume is there. I don't love the matchup, but we'll see what happens with Christian Kirk in this passing attack. I think, if you listen to people who cover the Jags on a daily basis, Calvin Ridley's been the primary weapon. Zay Jones has looked phenomenal. It's not to say Kirk's not going to have great games, and and Evan Ingram's going to have great games, and Zay Jones is going to have great games, and they might not all come the same week, right? And that might be a little bit of an issue as you're trying to sort through these. So Najee for volume in this one. If you need a home run swing, I don't know that Najee is that in this matchup, and maybe Kirk is, but there you have it. I'm probably going to give, I'd probably give the Jags a shot here. I don't like the Jags. Saints are a better defense, but are they going to be presented with opportunities to be disruptive playmakers? Or are we going to see a ton of Derrick Henry and some limited passing, or at least a lighter passing workload where a lot of the big plays on defense can come from? I think for the Jaguars, you're thinking, hey, it's a rookie quarterback making his first start, a guy that's not known for his accuracy. Anthony Richardson, I'm speaking of, who may just run roughshod over them. Maybe he won't give them a ton of opportunities, but I think the expectation is if he does, there's some interception opportunities there. John Bonneville mentions Jaden Reed season. Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave, both should be on your radars, people. Paul Stella, pick one, tight end, full PPR. Jay Johnson. Help me out. Oh, Juwan Johnson. Sometimes when I'm reading a lot of questions, I'm reading fast. Here's what's helpful, and many of you know this. Put in the opponent. I probably know them, but in case I don't, it's just improves the flow. If it's like regular names like Johnson or Smith or Jones or somebody, even if it's obvious to you, as I'm reading through a wide swath of comments, it might not be as obvious to me. I'm probably going with Juwan Johnson on this one. Not against Dalton Schultz. Komet's probably the bottom of that range, and probably shouldn't be. I like Juwan Johnson's kind of a sexy play this year. I think we've heard the reporting how he's become. Catherine Terrell called him one of the more reliable options for Derek Carr. It's emerged as, and probably a big play threat. So I kind of like him. I don't feel great about Houston in this game. I'll be honest with you. Against Baltimore, if they fall behind, will they get a lot of offense? I don't know. Andrea needs to flex one. Oi. I lost the question. I barely scrolled. Here it is. Deontay Johnson, A.J. Dillon. Oh, okay. So I'm probably going A.J. Dillon there, Andrea. I think that's a pretty easy one for me. So I don't want to overblow the matchups, right? Because that's what we tend to do in these first games. So I don't think the Steelers or the 49ers, for that matter, are unplayable. But I'm probably not feeling like they're ideal. If I have better options, I'm probably okay playing the better option. I think A.J. Dillon's an okay option. Deontay Johnson's going to get a ton of targets, though. So, take that into account. Any updates on Ramondre Stevenson? Yes. The updates are he's expected to play. It's like a stomach bug. Trent Brown had it earlier in the week. And I think it's widely believed. We'll watch today, see if they make any moves. They'll probably elevate someone. There's only 2 running backs, I believe, on their final roster. It's Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott. Probably bring up Ty Montgomery or Harris, I guess, from the Harrises. From the practice squad. They got a couple options on the practice squad, I want to say. So, but the reporting was optimistic. I believe it was 2 different reports, the Boston Herald and Mass Live, both. Kind of say. So they got 2. It's Ty Montgomery they've got available on the practice squad. Kevin Harris available on the practice squad. So expect one of those guys to be elevated, I'm guessing. But either way, I expect Stevenson to play. We'll be watching for more. But that's how it stands now. Remy needs one quarterback. Aaron Rodgers versus Buffalo or Anthony Richardson versus Jags. Well, depends on how you want to play it. I mean, I could make an argument for either. Aaron Rodgers is probably the safer play, even in a tough matchup. Anthony Richardson's the lottery ticket upside swing. John Bonneville, I hope that helped you. That's what it is. It's a stomach bug. And so he was fine, practiced without issue Wednesday and Thursday, then was limited Friday and listed as questionable. So Dak, Rodgers, or Anthony Richardson. I'm playing Dak in that one. Clear cut for me. Again, Anthony Richardson is a lottery ticket. I'm not afraid to play him. Sorry, I guess you guys are ahead of me in the chat. I'm slow on the answers. Just listen to whoever's answering questions in the chat. If I don't get to them, I'm just going as fast as I can. Steve Linder, PPR, I need 2 of 3. Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton, or Ken Walker. Thanks again and good luck this week. Thanks again and good luck to you. Probably going in this order: Walker, Sutton, Kirk. Las Vegas doesn't play great defense, people. I like that. We'll see if Jerry Jeudy plays. Need one flex man. Jefferson versus Seattle. Romeo Dubs versus Chicago. I'm probably going Jefferson, Hodgins, and Dubs. It's a late afternoon kickoff for Dubs, so you can wait. You have you have viable options in both cases. I don't know how healthy Dubs is, even if he plays. There is a hamstring issue in general. I'm injury agnostic, but not when somebody's hurt. They're hurt, right? So Dubs is clearly not 100%, so I'd probably go with one of the options it is. And you don't know going into a game, right? And this is one of the problems dealing with the uncertainty of things. And maybe it's partly, Andrea, how you like to play. I tend to be a little more aggressive. I'm a little bit more of a risk taker. But in this case, when I'm dealing with your teams, I'm a little less of a risk taker because it's your team and not mine. So I'm playing it safer and probably going, like if I could wait till Sunday night and I knew for sure Waller was out, I'd probably go Hodgins. But I'm probably going Jefferson, then Hodgins, then Dubs. And if Dubs is active, and you don't feel good about Jefferson, I mean, it's a totally reasonable gamble. But again, going into the game with a less than 100% hamstring if he plays. Pat V, also Thomas, Tennessee versus Tennessee, or Sutton versus Las Vegas. Michael Thomas, I guess that is, or Cortland Sutton. I don't know if this is tacked on to another list of players that I missed. So if I'm choosing between those 2, I'm probably slight lean Sutton, I want to say. I like Mike Thomas. I'm not going to lie. Just checking the rankings. Yeah, Sutton is ranked well ahead of him. I do like Michael Thomas, but he's also playing with Chris Olave, so there's a limiting factor there. Jesse Cedillo, Sutton, London, or Mostert. I love Mostert this week. I think he's a running back, too. It's a great matchup against the Chargers, even if assuming Miami throws the ball a lot. I think there'll be some room for Mostert. So I'm going Mostert, London, Sutton in that order. Dominic Conti, good morning. In a full PPR, who do you like best in my flex? James Cook versus the Jets, Khalil Herbert versus Green Bay, or Moore versus Cincy? Elijah Moore, that is. Probably like Herbert against Green Bay the most. I mean, and I might have a blind spot for James Cook. It's entirely possible. It's a pretty tough matchup, though, either way, even if I do have a blind spot. Good morning, Mr. Scampers. Caw. Got the eagle scream out for you, sir. I don't have like I want to say it's a blind spot. If it's not a blind spot, it's like totally see that the best goal line back on that team over the course of the last since his arrival is Josh Allen. And maybe they want that not to be the case, which is why they brought in Damian Harris and Latavius Murray, because they think they need other guys to be goal line backs if they don't want to be Josh Allen, because that doesn't seem to include James Cook. So look, he's a fine play, and I get the upside in a great offense. So I'm just probably going Herbert. I think, at least early in the season, he looks like the guy to me. And Elijah Moore, I like an awful lot, just not compared to either of those backs. I would play either of those backs ahead of him. Jesse wants to know, Richardson or Geno Smith? I'm just seeing Dame's comment, until Justin Ross takes over. Entirely possible. This refers back to my screed about the wide receiver 1 situation in Kansas City, no doubt. By the way, if you're just getting here, I'm Bob Harris. Hi, how are you? We're answering lots of lineup questions today. It's week 1. Yes, Darren Waller is hurt. Yes, Mark Andrews is beat up. Uncertainty there. Christian Watson's out. Cooper Kupp's out. We're going to have to deal with these things, people. We're dealing with them in many of the questions. There's a lot of things going on this week. Some things you don't have to worry about, though. Joe Burrow, he's playing, and he's very rich. Congratulations to him. Richardson or Geno Smith, Jesse? This is a pretty easy one for me. Geno Smith in an easy matchup against the Rams, or at least a good matchup. I don't think there's any easy matchups. That's crazy. What am I saying? I'm being dismissive of NFL talent. But it's a favorable matchup for sure for Geno Smith. It's a favorable matchup for Richardson. Just don't know if he's got the firepower and the backfield talent. I would love to see this offense with Jonathan Taylor in it. I'm not going to lie. Looking forward to that. I'm not going to see that for at least a month. So Deion Jackson, Evan Hull, maybe Zach Moss. He's listed as questionable this week. Could be a murky 3-man committee, as my friend Andy Behrens would call it. So I'm going Geno Smith here. I love Richardson as a lottery ticket play. So if that's how you want to play it, feel free. I'm not discouraging that. I'm doing that in some cases. But if I have one league and I'm setting this as my lone lineup, Geno Smith is the play. Hello to all, Jimmy Williams. Yes, I think I discussed this. I hope you caught this. I'm so far behind the chat. Darren Waller, it's more general tightness than a specific pull that happened on Friday, just some late week tightness. He was moving around well, according to Jordan Ronan of ESPN. And Ronan's reports was more optimistic than what I had previously been hearing. So there's that. And Stevenson is expected to play. It's a stomach bug. So we'll watch today. They'll probably make a roster move. Wouldn't let that panic me. Tony Groppensberger. Look at me say names and everything. Gibson, Elliott, or Swift at running back 2 in PPR. Probably go with Gibson. Probably going Swift. I hate the Eagles. The Eagles, in case you missed it, listed all 4 guys as running back 1. Their entire depth chart is perfectly defined, except for running back, where they list 4 guys as starters. Thank you, Eagles. So we know the concerns here with the Philadelphia backfield, right? Swift seems like he'd be a great play. I will remind you that no team threw fewer passes to their running backs last year than the Philadelphia Eagles. They've got great receivers. They've got a great tight end. They brought Swift in supposedly because he's a really good receiver and they want to do this more, and they were impressed with how he tore them asunder in their game against him last year. I was told that they intend to use him more as a receiver because he can catch the ball. I reminded the person who told me this that Miles Sanders caught 50 passes as a rookie, and that didn't seem to buy him any ground, right? So if that's the argument that he's a great receiver, I don't know if I'm buying that. But anyway, I digress. Swift is probably the guy I'm playing here. Let me just check something. So I love the matchup against Arizona. So it's between Gibson and Swift. My concern, so I'm going to play Gibson. There's a concern here, though, is if they get out in front and they start hammering the ball, right? And so we're going with it. We tell ourselves happy stories. You guys know how I do this. We build a narrative in our mind. The narrative I built in my mind is that the Commanders are going to kick the living K-Pock out of the Cardinals. get used to this. I think it's going to be a regular thing. That being the case, if they get up and they're nursing a lead as we go into the second half, I'm expecting to see a lot of Brian Robinson and maybe a little less Gibson. So, but Swift, it's a murky 4-man committee, so that's a concern. Elliott, it's a 2-man committee, should get some goal line work, but the volume would be a concern for me. So I'm going Gibson, Swift, Elliott in that order. Hello, sir. Would you start? Says CJ Chris. Would you start Javonte Williams or Dotson in half-point flex, half-point PPR, flex, half-point PPR, flex, blah, blah, blah. Hello, sir. Yes. So this is a tough call. Again, for the reason I stated. I love Jahan Dotson this week. I have him rated. I love Terry McLaurin. We have Jahan Dotson rated ahead of him this week, not just because of the injury issue, but Dotson came on strong late last year. He's looked good this summer. They're both going to be great plays this year. I think once the season's over, I'm going to have a little more. I would bet my money on McLaurin outpointing Dotson, but it's not by a ton, right? So I think he's a great play. Again, I'm worried about great game script. The concerns in Denver are, what's that workload going to be? I've talked to multiple people. Parker Gabriel from the Denver Post has told me that he expects them to go easy on Javonte Williams. Look, we're all encouraged because Williams came in, avoided pup. Seemed way ahead of where we expect him to be. Got a lot of work in the exhibition season, or relatively heavy workload considering his circumstances. But the thought is you're going to see the best case scenario is it's going to be a 3-way split. And I know Andrew Mason, who covered the Broncos formerly for the team's website, now for various media outlets, he thinks we're going to see a lot of Jaleel McLaughlin. Parker Gabriel told me we're going to see some Jaleel McLaughlin, so great playmaking, undrafted rookie, had a great training camp and some good exhibition play. We're going to see P. Ryan, we're going to see Williams. So it's going to be a split to some degree, and anytime you get to those circumstances, there's a hot hand situation. You could easily make an argument for Dotson in this game. I would say that. So kind of depends on how you want to play it. Javonte Williams might be the more old school conservative approach. I think Dotson's probably the smarter play in this case. Madison, I scrolled too far. This is a lot of questions, you guys. I'm trying to get there. Madison, London, or Keenan Allen? I mean, Keenan Allen's a very good player, right? Over the course of last season, he was, when he returned from the injury, I want to say, what was that, week 11 or whatever, he was like wide receiver 6. He's going to be very good. London, I think, is going to be heavily targeted, but I don't trust that passing attack as much. Madison, my concerns with him, is this is going to be a pass-heavy offense, but they might get a lead, and he might see more runs. So this is going to be kind of that how you tell yourself that story. I'm probably playing Madison slightly ahead of Allen, and London slightly after him. Standard, 3. Flex needed to pick 2. Wait a minute. Okay. Oh, okay. So you need 2 of these 3. I'm going Robinson and Herbert. And I love Ayuk. He's fantastic. Not keen on the matchup this week in general, but again, trying not to overstate the matchups because we don't know what the hell is going to happen. It's week 1. Crazy stuff happens, right? Expect a little normalization, people, around the start of October. Until then, the volatility is high, which is why I tend to lean towards the more conservative plays here. Brian Robinson and Khalil Herbert being the more conservative plays. Mr. Scampers, Scott Fishbowl, need 2. Gabe Davis versus the Jets, Zay Flowers versus Houston, and Hollywood at Washington football team. Yeah, I'm probably going Flowers and Gabe Davis just without that. So if Hollywood plays, is that okay? Maybe. Do I know? I've been preaching all year long, and I know you've been here all year long, so you've heard me preach it, that I don't want to let less than ideal quarterback situations scare me away from good wide receivers. Did I mention it's less than ideal in Arizona? We don't know what we're going to get from Josh Dobbs. I thought he played well last year in Tennessee. I'm probably going. I feel more comfortable with Davis and Flowers at this point, and kind of see what happens with Hollywood, given the fact that he is not healthy. Guillotine League, Flex, A-Chain, Terrace Marshall, Randall Cobb if Dubs is out. Probably A-Chain for me. I know, so Terrace Marshall, by the way, is off the injury report. There is no DJ Chark. Adam Thielen's a little beat up. Seems likely to play. So I do think Marshall is a guy to keep an eye on. I don't know that he's a guy I need to play yet. Kevin Payne, I have Ingram picked up Giants D to stream against the Cardinals next week. Would it be better to stash Musgrave or even Reed? I would want to stash one of those guys for sure. I mean, but I get, there might be other defenses you can stream. I get, though, that desire as well. You're going to probably play Ingram, so if you really want to play that defense, it's great. But honestly, I would try to find a way to stash Musgrave or even Reed for sure. Hi, Brian Baker. Thank you. I don't know that it's been a great show. It's been fast-paced. But I appreciate the kind words. Flex question, non-PPR. Dameon Pierce, Drake London, or DeAndre Swift. I do not love Dameon Pierce this week, but I feel a little better about him in a non-PPR than I do about Drake London and DeAndre Swift. Didn't Isaac Bruce have hamstring issues earlier in his career? Wonder if the Rams consulted on him and how they overcame them. I know how they overcame them. There was a coach named Al Saunders who super long-time receivers coach, like super high-end, bested his job in the league for many years. And they brought him in, and he mapped out a plan the minute he got there for every single practice, every single day. He watched Isaac Bruce's diet. He watched how much he rested. So I don't know that they consulted with him, but I think Ryan Dunleavy from the New York Post tweeted last night when this injury news came out, kind of expressing his disappointment. But he talked about they carefully managed Waller all summer long to avoid injury. So this doesn't sound like an injury. It sounds like tightness. So maybe the management was not as good as they needed it to be. But that's, it's a great point, Roger, is the Rams really put a lot of effort into it. I have too much Hollywood, I'm realizing. Mr. Scampers, you are Hollywood. PPR, one per rush. Option or Mingo Algier. I'd probably go Algier of that group. I don't want to, I feel like we get it in our head that we're avoiding a player, and I feel like I'm there with Hollywood this week. Just the uncertainty with the hamstring is more so than the quarterback. Because I think if there wasn't the hamstring, I would try to be leverage the thing I've been telling you, preaching. I would be practicing what I preached all off season long and not totally dialing back on Hollywood because of a horrifying quarterback situation. Horrifying might be overstating the case, according to Josh Dobbs. That's probably is overstating the case. But it's less than ideal for sure, right? PPR, Mostert or Madison. I'm probably still playing Madison, but I love Mostert this week. I love that matchup. The Chargers were not good at stopping running backs last year. I don't know if they're any better. The Dolphins are also a pass-heavy team, right? So, it's kind of pick your poison. I want to see how close the projections are on them. They're in the same tier, right? Best case, the worst you could say. Madison, yeah, they're both in the running back 2 tier for me. So, if you had a hunch, play your hunch. If you're just playing the rankings, if you want to just play my ranking, it's Madison over Mostert. But I'm going to tell you this. Here's a secret, everybody. Trust my rankings. Love my rankings. Put a lot of effort in the rankings. We start out with an algorithm that sorts them out. Then we meticulously go through them, and I adjust them based on the latest news and information as it comes in, and a little bit my own gut and instincts and whatnot. And so I like going with that, but you don't have to, right? To pretend that I can say I have Madison at 18 and I have Mostert at 23, and that I can say that with definitive perfection is not true. I don't have that granularity in my predictive skills, right? They're in the same tier. So if you have a hunch, Pat B, I think this is a good conversation to have, because it's just, I think, he's managing everyone's expectations here, based on let me just acknowledge, I don't know every damn thing. I know a lot of things, but predicting the future with 100% accuracy is apparently not it, says Jahmyr Gibbs. All right. So there. Lecture over. Brian Larkin, flex, Dameon Pierce or James Cook. I'm going with the volume or anticipated volume there, Dameon Pierce. I don't like the matchup. I don't like the anticipated game script. I don't know what else they're going to do, right? Are we going to count on C.J. Stroud to carry this offense in this game? Probably not. Do I have any concerns about Ramondre Stevenson's illness? If you're just getting here, I will answer this. I've answered it a couple times, so I don't know if you're just getting here, so I will do that. So if you find me repeating answers that I've said, that's why, people. I don't know when the person asking came in, so I don't want them to miss out. I'm not overly concerned. It's a late afternoon kickoff. I'd like to have a fallback option in place, but I'm thinking the local reporting is it's going to be okay. Holy hell, Scampers has a Hollywood Mingo Algier conundrum in the Guillotine League 2. I think that, opportunities for Mingo, I'm probably leaning slightly to Algier here. I think there's especially in a guillotine where I just want to not lose, right? I don't want to be last. I don't have to be first. Dennis Mental. Pardon me, I do this too much. I think I'm scrolling like a little bit, and I scroll a mile. Oh my God. Dennis Mental, full PPR, Gabe Davis, Bateman, Tank Dell, or Warren from Pittsburgh at the flex. I like Bateman maybe a little bit more than everybody else. That's entirely possible. I think Bateman is kind of an overlooked guy, maybe with good reason, right? I'm not saying that's not true. Probably Gabe Davis seems like the logical play here. To me, Tank Dell seems like a little bit of a flyer. I'd like to see. He's not in the top three. If you listen to people cover this team on a daily basis, this team being the Houston Texans, are Nico Collins, Robert Woods, or Noah Brown. Tank Dell's like the fourth guy in the kick returner, and maybe he gets an opportunity and maybe he makes a big play. It's entirely possible. Big plays can come from anywhere, says Rashee Rice. So, and probably Warren, also a capable big play guy, but I'm probably going to play Davis. Hi, Ryan. Thanks for making it to the Saturday show, 9 a.m., just too early. I understand. But it's new. Oh, are you on the East Coast? Are you on the West Coast? My bad. Whew. I hear you now. Dennis, half point, Mostert or T. Higgins. So I'm on a Mostert. So sometimes I need to check myself just so I don't wreck myself, because, I talk about it with Jahmyr Gibbs. He is the nail. I am the hammer. I get that way during weeks where there's a player I really like and I really like his matchup, and I really like Mostert's matchup. And, the current situation for him is positive because there's not a lot of, he's healthy. There is no Jeff Wilson. Devin A-Chain is off the injury report, but has spent a lot of time working. So on our flex rankings on FootballDiehards.com, it's a website. You should go there. Use the promo code DieHards, get 15% off. Constantly updated stream of news and information that'll keep you up to date on all the minute-by-minute things. Tons of video content, tons of great articles, DFS optimizers, or ownership shares, all kinds of information you need to excel in DFS. And in regular season information, you've got everything in those rankings, in our flex rankings, where we rank everyone in one big group. T. Higgins is 39, Mostert is 40. If you just heard my rant about me not being able to predict things with great granularity, you'll find they're in the same tier, Dennis. Play the one you like. My thoughts on Juwan Jennings competing with Olave, Thomas for targets, as well as Kamara to come. I think you mean Juwan Johnson. I'm guessing Jimmy Williams. If that's the case, I think Juwan Johnson has kind of I feel like he's a guy that people are high on, right? I think people are expecting a breakout. To be fair, I drafted him 3 years ago thinking he was going to be his breakout season. So there's that. But again, I mentioned it at the top of the live stream, or earlier in the live stream. Catherine Carroll from ESPN called him, says he emerged as one of Derek Carr's more reliable threats over the middle of the field. Mike Triplett, now with the New Orleans Football, has basically said the same thing. So these are people that are there every day watching, and they're commenting on this guy and telling me he's that. So I don't think you're too high on him. I mean, I think competing with Olave, Thomas for targets and Rashid Shaheed as well is going to be in there. And there are other tight ends, right? But I do think Johnson is an upside play. Juwan Jennings, not so much for San Francisco. So I don't know that you're too high on him. Maybe you are, but I think there's reason to be high on him. Dame, curious if you ever heard anything on Juju and his knee possibly exploding. Not sure it was a report to dismiss since he obviously passed the physical. So I tend to dismiss reports that are super hyperbolic, right? Because I mean, it's going to explode. No, it's probably not going to explode. But the reporter was Albert Breer, who is a really legitimate NFL insider. I've also heard this from others that there are concerns about that knee. There have been for quite some time. So he has obviously passed his physical. He's obviously not on the injury report. But I mean, is the knee going to be an issue as the season goes on? Seems likely that at some point, based on Albert Breer's reporting. By the way, Albert Breer, before he became the insider at SI, covered the Patriots, so he's pretty well connected there for local Boston media. So there you go. AJ Dillon. So I think the report was hyperbolic. I think we'll have some advance notice if the knee starts going south. I don't think it will explode like a ticking time bomb would. Jay Williams, AJ Dillon, or B. Robinson. So I was supposing, Ryan, when you say Jay Williams, you mean either Javonte or Jamal. So if you could help me out on some of these, as again, Smiths, Johnsons, Joneses. There's a lot of guys where it's hard for me to ascertain with just an initial. Also, just for future reference, not specifically aimed at you, Ryan, but just in general, if you put the matchups in there, it just helps me be a little more fluid. So Javonte or Jamal at Las Vegas or against Tennessee, A.J. Dillon in Chicago, Brian Robinson Jr. against Arizona. I love Brian Robinson Jr.'s matchup. I'm probably going with him over Jamal and maybe even over Javonte as well, both of them over A.J. Williams. 1 point PPR, need one playing Scary Terry. So that's the worry with Brian Robinson. So I would not be that worried about it. My cats are fine, Scott Mueller. One of them is right next to me now. I don't want to turn the camera, but he is very happily purring away. And the other one is up on the stairwell staring at me because he heard me say cats. Hello, Melissa Harris. Her IDP is so sad. Oh, no. You're welcome, Kevin Payne. Appreciate you. Mark Spafford. Hi, Bob. You know where Kelsey Cup are being drafted in Vegas this weekend? I do not. I have not seen that yet. And if any of you are wondering, these the high stakes kind of people, the World Championship thing, they draft knowing what happened. They draft after the Thursday night game, knowing the outcomes, and it does. It affects the draft position. It's interesting to see where people are taking them. So there you have it. So yeah, it's an interesting question, and I'll try and find that out and have that information for you going forward. Maybe next week we can discuss that. Mr. Scampers, yes, the hammy injury is the only worry for me with Brown, quarterback be damned. That's it, Scampers. I'm with you. I think, again, I'm trying to leverage this less than ideal quarterback situation based on a lot of what we saw last year. And if you haven't been around listening to me harp on this all year, I mean, guys like Tyler Metcalf, or DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper, many others. I mean, they outperformed our expectations because we thought the quarterback was going to be horrible. I think Arizona's quarterback could be horrible. Godwin and Evans this year. I think this is probably a good week for them given the matchup, right? Baker Mayfield willing. In MAC 2686, iMac 2686, PPR need 2, Pickens, Gabe Davis, Breece Hall. So I suppose this is where I should use this as an opportunity to get to my Breece Hall thoughts. I think they're going to play it safe with Breece Hall. The code words are out there. He's working on a limited basis this week. We heard Robert Saleh say that we'll probably see some Michael Carter and maybe even Israel Abanikanda. The key factor for me here is Dalvin Cook is cleared, working fully. They paid him $7+ million, up to $8 million, right? I mean, they didn't pay him to be Breece Hall's backup, right? They paid him frontline money. So I'm concerned about Breece Hall. Until I have better information, I'm probably playing the Gabe Davis, the wide receivers here. And again, I mean, if you feel better about this, by all means, right? Jump in and do your thing, right? I'm sitting here, I'm sharing my thoughts, right? This is your team. So I sit here and I have the same thoughts on Javonte Williams. I'm a little concerned. Maybe I'm putting too much in the lessons we learned last year. Maybe I'm doing the same thing with the receivers, right? Where I'm dialing back or I'm being a little more aggressive on receivers with maybe not the greatest quarterback situations. Look, it's better to have a great quarterback. The offense is better. There are more plays. There's more play volume. There's more drives, right? Drives are extended further when you have a better quarterback. But it doesn't mean that they can't be productive at all. So Gabe Davis, by the way, has a great quarterback. George Pickens has an improving quarterback. Breece Hall, I have questions. I just don't know. So waiting until Monday, like if in the range of possible outcomes, Breece Hall getting a limited number of plays and taking one of them to the house for a touchdown, possible. Breece Hall being inactive, possible, right? I mean, that's the range of outcomes. Also would like your thoughts on Chicago's Roschon Johnson, Jaden Reed, and Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller is questionable this week. I think I like Kendre Miller. I invested in him heavily. I think he's a good fit for this offense. I think Roschon Johnson is a player worth watching. I think Jaden Reed might have a more immediate impact. Bob, you may not know everything, but you know more than me. I know more than I should. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate that. Hello, Albert. Hello, Scott. Thank you. Cool. I'm glad. I know that some of you are still here saying, "Why do I keep repeating the answers?" This is why, because people show up and didn't catch the answer the first time. So I'm mindful of that. I got about 10 more minutes, so I'll try and haul ass and get through the rest of the questions. Hashtag never wreck yourself, Mr. Scampers is correct. Here's the thing we do as fantasy managers. We outsmart ourselves. We are prone to this, right? Like we will sit here and we will do things that we have no business doing because it sounds really good. We tell ourselves happy stories, right? Or sad stories about things that probably are happier than we believe. I try to keep it down the middle a little bit so to never wreck myself. Christian Kirk or Brian Robinson in the flex, pull point PPR. I'm playing the volume, Umberto, and that's Brian Robinson for me. Graham F. Drafted Dubs, wondering if I should drop him for Jalen Reed. Thoughts? I would try not to drop him. I would try to still get Jalen Reed. I would drop somebody else, if at all possible. If you have 2 kickers, if you have an extra quarterback or whatever, and you can stream, if there's a position you could stream and get Jalen Reed, I would do that, but not at the cost of dropping Dubs, who, when he's healthy, I think will be very good. Shadi Bazi. Hi, Bob. Appreciate it, man. I've got a PPR league where we also get half point per rush. I need to start one. Rashad White, Damian Pierce, Akers, Mostert. Tough choices. Just one? I like Akers a little bit this week. I think White's going to be very busy. I don't see people cutting in. Sean Tucker notwithstanding his workload. Wonder if they're going to get behind. He'll get a lot of catches in that one as well. Super tough choice. They're all in the same damn tier. If I'm being honest. So if that's the case, let me just give you the actual rankings on them. Akers. So let's see. We have White at 14. Akers at 20. Mostert at 23. Pierce at 27. Tootsie Pop 6 wants to know how many cats do I have. I have 2 cats. One of them is very large, though. He counts for like 7. By very large, I mean 30 pounds. Hi, Ming. Ming the Merciless and Wally are my cats. PPR flex, Jordan Addison or Damian Pierce. I'm playing Damian Pierce there. He's not my favorite of that last list of backs, as you saw, but he is first in line for the carries in Houston, even if I think that might not be an ideal outcome. I'll wait and see on Jordan Addison. Think he could be very good. There's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. Swift or London. I'm probably playing in London in that one. Jesse Cedillo. Ryan Javante. Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it, man. I didn't mean to rag on you about the question, but it helps me out. I'm trying to go fast sometimes. JC, you're too kind. Tootsie Pop, PPR Flex, Tyler Boyd, Rashad Penny, OBJ. I'm probably playing OBJ this week and not feeling great about it. I need to see something from that Eagles backfield. And I'm just going to say, I'm still in on thinking Rashad Penny is going to be heavy usage guy, early downs. It makes sense to me. It's what I've been hearing since June, right? And it's only recently that I started hearing different narratives. And some of that was based on playing time that we saw in the preseason. Sometimes that's indicative of the plan. Sometimes that's less indicative of the plan. So just taking a wait-and-see approach, I might give OBJ a shot. I do think this is going to be a run-heavy game, Rachel. So, be careful. Let me just double-check the rankings and see where we are. I want to say Penny is probably going to be behind. Yeah, I'm probably playing Beckham in this case. mean, it's very close. They're both in the same range. So Beckham for me. Wait and see on Penny. Tough defense too for going up against, not a, again, we love the Eagles. I love that offense. It's all fantastic. But also the Patriots defense is pretty good. Jimmy Williams, Vegas FFPC, still seeing Kelsey in the first and Kupp in the fifth, sometimes the sixth. That's pretty good value. And I think people are baking in that he's going to miss that time. This is what we were referring to earlier, the high stakes contests that are drafting after the start of the season. How do you see the Washington run game change with Eric Bieniemy? I don't know that I see it I think the difference is maybe more than Bieniemy is J.D. McKissick being gone, and that opens the door to Antonio Gibson playing more of the receiving role instead of the primary role, and Brian Robinson Jr. playing the primary role. And don't overlook the fact that, as Brian Robinson will tell you, he got shot in the knee last year, 6 weeks before the season, yet still played reasonably well. He thinks he's going to be better this year, so I do like that. Thoughts on starting Dobbins instead of Ramondre and PPR? Is the Texans smash spot too good to resist? Mike Levar says, I say it is. This is one of the ones that I'm all in on. I'm all in on Dobbins this week because of that matchup. It's super powerful. It's one of the reasons why I'm maybe a little bit dialed back with Mark Andrews kind of beat up. We'll see. I think he'll probably play, but not entirely sure. But that's one of the reasons I'm not going all in on Zay Flowers as much as I'd like to this week. So, yes. Thank you, iMac2636. Dame 5.5 per rush. Sounds nuts, but let's get wild. iMac, thank you. I appreciate that. It's very kind. Scott Mueller. Thank you. Appreciate it all. Andrea, hit the like button. I always like to hit the dislike button so Bob has company. Thank you, Dame. I appreciate that. Scampers obligatory. I can speak sometimes. Defensive special teams question: Jacksonville and Indy or Dallas and New York Giants. I am playing the Dallas Cowboys defense this is a hill I will die on. I do like Jacksonville against Indy, but I'm playing Dallas every damn chance I get, right? Micah Parsons would like me to do that. He's very good. I love the disruptive playmakers. All right, everybody. That's it for the questions. Again, I want to remind, one more. SFB, Kelsey drafted Taysom versus Tennessee or Trey McBride. I'm taking Taysom. Mike Triplett from New Orleans Football said something to me last time I talked to him. He said 5 people aren't still drafting Taysom as a backup tight end. He's listed as quarterback, by the way. I know that hasn't changed over. I think Sleeper still has him a tight end, so it's fair game. But he thinks he's going to continue to doing Taysom Hill things. So we have that. FootballDiehards.com. It's the website, people. Go there. So much information. I do probably 40 to 50 injury updates every single day. On Saturdays, I do a little more in-depth stuff. You'll find the articles going up now that'll kind of help you sort out some of the matchup information. And beyond that, we have tons of great content from Gary Davenport, Casey Joyner, Justin Lanero, Drew Phelps, Jamie Calandro, Brad Cruz, great high-stakes player, and the Gridiron Scholar, John Lobb, every single week. So tons of content up there. Reginald James, the Commissioner HQ, will be there as well. So we have tons of content. Go to FootballDiehards.com. Rankings that are constantly updated and adjusted on the fly right up through Sundays, through various kickoffs, or at least through the early game kickoffs. Catch me on SiriusXM NFL Radio and Fantasy Radio tonight, 8 to 11 on Saturday nights. We're on broadcast from NFL Radio, and that's simulcast on the Fantasy channel. So if you're calling in, you have to call in the NFL Radio number. So listen in during the broadcast. We make that pretty clear. I'll be on tomorrow, the pregame show. This is my 12th year of pregame show on Sirius. My 12th year doing the pregame show. I love that show. Doing it now with Jeff Mans, have been for the last few years. It's a fantastic show. We go fast. We'll be doing a little simulcast with NFL Radio, my old buddy Steve Cohen. During the week, Football Diehards on SiriusXM. Monday and Thursday, we're on from 10 until 1 a.m. Talk you through the end of the game, answer all your questions. We'll be talking with Evan Tarciano from the website about his sit-start or his waiver wire wizard column every Monday night. So check that out. And I left Evan out of my conversation. What the hell am I doing? Evan does the waiver wire stuff early in the week. We won't get one until this week. And also Joe Kalana Jr. helping out in that regard as well. So great stuff there. Friday nights, the Diehards are on the Fantasy Channel from 10 until midnight, doing nothing but answering questions just like I do here. I will be here every Saturday answering questions just like I did today. I will be here every Wednesday, usually with a guest if we're on the hot seat. Sometimes not. We'll see how it goes. Friday nights, our DFS show with Eric Romoff and Jamie Calandro. Every Friday, 9 p.m., they'll go through ownership percentages, prices, builds, answer your questions. So much content. Check the YouTube channel, John Lobb. There you'll see tons of shorts from him as well. Nothing like the Gridiron Scholar. Nothing like you people. I love you. I thank you for coming here and spending some time with me every week. A couple times a week, many of you. It's like it's not something I overlooked. Really appreciate you, your time and your attention, and hope we make it worth your while. I'm Bob Harris. Over and out.